to Limpopo now, where the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe, says the party is set for that province's elective conference, which starts today. Pelane Phakgadi is standing by to be in conversation with Pule Mabe to get further details in terms of how the process will run itself out throughout the course of the weekend as well. Pelane Phakgadi, it's over to you.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Dudu. Of course, you've heard from the national spokesperson of the African National Congress, Pule Mabe, saying that there is a delay, of course, but there is a meeting of the Provincial Executive Committee that is currently underway. And, of course, delegates are still making their way inside the Ranch Hotel and Conference Center, where the conference, the 10th conference of the African National Congress here in Limpopo will be beginning. Let me bring in Pule Mabe, because we catched him at the later part of our discussion a little bit earlier on. Pule, there are, of course, delays. And I've seen quite a number of security detail outside. Earlier on, you were just discussing and sharing with us how we see this kind of security detail that we've not even seen in some other provinces and regional conferences.
Well, as my colleague would have outlined or alluded earlier, this is really having to do with issues of access. They would have done their own work. You know, ordinarily we don't really come and disclose those security details. They remain with those that are in charge of such. But we can tell you now, there are no signs or anything to suggest that conference is going to be violent or is going to degenerate. Everything you can see. I mean, it's all systems go. Everything is really geared for conference to take place in a climate that is more friendly, peaceful, and all of that. And we are hoping that at the conclusion of this conference, it would be the democratic will of branches that will have prevailed, both in terms of how they articulate or express themselves on policy discussions, how they deal with all of the issues that might arise or emanate at conference. We are here to make sure that we could hold everything together and ensure that ultimately there is a successful conference in Limpopo.
Definitely. We're supposed to start at around 10 o'clock as far as that is concerned. And earlier on you said it's unforeseen circumstances. Currently the PEC is ongoing. Do you have an idea when the conference might officially begin?
Well, the PEC is sitting. The expectation is that at the conclusion of that Provincial Executive Committee meeting, the conference will then resume. The TG is here to come and give or deliver an opening address to conference. So everything else has been done to make sure that the conference could be undertaken in a much more friendly and peaceful environment.
And perhaps as I conclude, earlier on we were discussing about this, and you said the National Executive Committee has not met about the issue around the Arthur Fraser matter, and as well as the President having laid charges against the President. You say you are yet to comment on this because the NEC is yet to sit on it.
Well, what I was advising members of the media on is that when the African National Congress reflects on issues, including on matters that are out in the environment, the organization, out of its own choosing, may decide to communicate. Safe to say that the presidency has already issued a statement on the matter, and I think that should be sufficient, really. We should not really be drawing the ANC on matters that have got very little to do with the organization.
Will you be discussing it in your next NEC?
Well, I mean, why would the agenda of the ANC is not dictated upon by what comes out in newspapers. Just imagine this. If the NEC's agenda was dictated by newspaper headlines, it means we'll need a media monitoring report before we start the NEC.
The President of the African National Congress, the President of South Africa, somebody has opened a charge against him. Will the NEC discuss that?
Hence, I am saying that it is not my place to say this or that issue is on the agenda of the NEC. You have covered the NEC of the ANC. You have covered us prior to us having the NEC, and we've always said that we will not be able to tell you the agenda up until the NEC sit. Because when the NEC is convinced, it then adopts the agenda. If matters such as this form part or constitute part of the agenda of the ANC, we'll come back and say this was the reflection of the NEC and this is the position of the organization.
Pule Mabe, National Spokesperson of the African National Congress, of course, just giving us an indication that the program for this particular conference will be continuing as soon as the Provincial Executive Committee has met and concluded its work. And there will be a briefing as well, just to give us an indication that they are about to start. Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Pule Mabe, is here as well to give the opening remarks. And of course, towards the later stages of our conversation, we're just talking about the charges laid against President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, by Arthur Fraser. And he, of course, saying that there are a lot of allegations around the robbery there at the Phala farm here in Limpopo, of course, in the Waterberg region. And the NEC of the African National Congress cannot, at this point, through Pule Mabe, saying that they will not be speaking. At least they will speak once they have deliberated on the matter. Whether or not it will be part of the agenda when they do sit, it's something else. Of course, Pule Mabe is saying that only should they have spoken about it in the NEC, then they'll be able to talk to the media about it.
Pelane Phakgadi, thank you for that update.